Hello. Welcome everyone to today's LinkedIn Live fireside chat from partners desk to personal brand, driving growth and innovation in a modern CPA and accounting firm. I'm Arume Hayes, your host and CEO of Hayes CPA, a New York City certified women and minority owned business. I serve on the New York CPA board. I'm a regional vice president with NABA, and I'm the immediate past chair of the AICPA Private Companies Practice Section Executive Committee. So, a quick fun fact about myself. Actually, I will hold on to my fun fact until our guest comes so I can share my fun fact and then they can share theirs. But today we're going to be exploring leadership, personal branding, empowering women, and actually bring on our guests. Balancing careers, and we'll talk about the demands with the advocacy and wellness, all critical themes that are shaping the modern business and our profession. What a great way for us to end the year with two outstanding guests who embody these values every day. So I want you guys to drop in the chat. Let us know where you're calling in from today. Okay. So I am really thrilled to be joined by two incredible leaders. Sarah Krom, managing partner at SKC and Company CPAs. She's the first female managing partner rather at her firm. She advocates for women in accounting and in leadership. She's active with various NJCPA initiatives, and she focuses on firm growth, innovation, and empowering professionals. And I have to say that I served with Sarah on the AICPA PCPS EC. And then we have Nicole Derosa. She's a director of tax at SKC and Co CPAs and brand ambassador for UWorld Accounting. She's got more than 15 years of public accounting experience, specializing in taxation. Awards include recognition by Forbes Top 200 CPAs in the US and AICPA's Outstanding Young CPA Award. She's a speaker, an advocate for the CPA designation, and of course, an active member of New Jersey CPA. She's always engaged in community. She volunteers at animal shelters. She's into a lot of different charitable things, and she's a Zumba instructor. And I have to say that I have taken one of her Zoom classes. So before we dive into the conversation, though, I like to start with something fun. So I'll share a little bit of fun fact about myself. I love to run, and my claim to fame was that in 2010, I ran the New York City Marathon. That's my only marathon. Since then, I've done a couple of half marathons, and I do 3 to 5 miles every now and then. And so, but let's start with you, Nicole, if you'd like to share a quick personal fun facts about yourself.
Well, my fun fact was going to be that I teach Zumba. That's what I thought.
Great on that. Tell us about it. How did you get into it?
So I mean, it's actually kind of funny because I like to set goals for myself and I like to reward myself when I attain the goals. So my goal was to pass the CPA exam, and my reward was to become a licensed Zumba instructor. So true story, way back when I found out I passed the fourth part of the exam, I signed up immediately to become a licensed Zumba instructor. And I've basically been teaching Zumba ever since at this point. So it's kind of does coincide with my accounting career. It does definitely coincides with, my CPA license, but that's how it all kind of came to be. I love dancing and I love working out. So what better way to combine both of them and teach Zumba?
I love it. I love it. So unexpected from a CPA to be a certified Zumba. So what about you, Sarah? A little fun fact or something personal that might surprise us?
Yeah, I don't know if it's fun. I think it's interesting. About 2.5 years ago, my husband and I converted to be vegan. So we eat no animal products. I do a lot of cooking, and I love cooking and making different recipes. And I make my own sourdough bread.
Wow, nice one. How long does it take you to make sourdough bread?
It depends on which recipe I use. Usually the better of the two recipes is about 4 to 5 hours between all the rising and resting that the dough needs to do.
Well, better you than me. I'm horrible in the kitchen. All right, folks. So I'm going to be monitoring the comments throughout our discussion. So please feel free to share your questions, any insights that you get from our conversation here today. whether you're a student who's exploring your career path, or you're a seasoned professional looking to lead with greater purpose, or you're just someone who is you want to support and you want to empower more women, this conversation is for you. All right. So let's dive into it. Sarah, let's start with you. As a managing partner, you've led SKC with through their growth and innovation. Like, what strategies have you found that have been most effective in driving change? In a traditional CPO accounting firm.
So I have a couple of answers to that question. The first is having the right partners and making sure that the partners that you work with and are, in the same room with you, making those strategic decisions, are on the same page with you and have the same vision that you do. One of the ways that we successfully did that was back in 2022, we launched a 5-year vision plan, which takes us to the end of 2026. And it took the partners about 6 months to come up with our 5 pillars that the firm was based on and what improvements we wanted to make over the course of those 5 years in each of those pillars. We're actually starting writing the new one going into 2027 because, as I said, this first one will come to a conclusion at the end of 2026. So right off the bat, the easiest thing for us was to create a vision and a strategy behind that vision that we knew we were all on the same page, and then that we also then shared with the rest of our colleagues and the rest of our team, and all new hires, and even some prospective new hires we've shared it with, because it really allows people to self-select in whether they feel that the organization is headed in a trajectory that they believe in and has values that they want to align with and join. And then in some cases, people self-select out because they don't necessarily want to go on the innovation journey or the automation journey or whatever the particular area is that just doesn't resonate with them. So that's kind of the first thing, is to create that vision and publicize that to anyone and everyone that you can. The other thing that I think we've really leaned on at SKC is we bring the team in as part of the decision makers with new technology, with new automation. We create focus groups and committees to sort of troubleshoot different software or troubleshoot different ideas that we may have. We poll the team very frequently to get feedback from them on things that we should change, things that we should improve, things that we should focus on. And, we as partners are in the weeds to a certain extent, but it's really our team who are hitting the grindstone every single day. So to be able to get their feedback and really harness their thoughts on things, it became really important when we went forward with innovation. And a good example of that is implementing new technology. Everybody in the accounting profession wants to do that now. It's the buzzword. There's a million different pieces of software and technology out there. And we very much set the standard based on feedback that we heard from our team, that we will not implement technology for the sake of implementing new technology unless it is solving a problem that we know we have and have identified, or making us better in some way that we can articulate. So the implementation of the next new shiny piece of software is not the route we're going to go down. It's very strategic and very measured.
Oh, I love that. It's so important to not follow that shining objects, right? And so you guys have a really good strategic way that you apply technology. But just so that we have a good understanding of your firm and now you guys, could you just quickly tell us, what your team members are like, how long, how many partners, and how old is your firm?
Sure. We have been around as a firm for 43 years. It is myself and 2 other partners. We are 100% female owned. We have 28 team members, mostly in our New Jersey office, but we've got an office in California, and we have a few remote employees between the 2 coasts. We only work with entrepreneur business owners, so we do that around the calendar year. Whether they are in any industry, it doesn't matter to us. We just want them to have the growth-minded philosophies and aspirations that most entrepreneurs have. We require our clients to meet with us at a minimum quarterly. A lot of our clients are monthly because they're of that size that they need sort of that constant involvement from us. We do a lot of strategy sessions. We do a lot of goal setting with them. We look at key performance indicators. We're constantly holding them accountable for the things that they say they're going to do, and make sure that, we serve in that support system as well. We don't do any audits. We do tax returns, of course, for the businesses and for the respective owners, and a lot of planning and strategy around the tax side of things as well.
That's awesome. That gives us a really good understanding. And Nicole, you are in the same firm. So is everything the way Sarah put it? Is it all the way they go to you guys to get buy-in and introduce technology only when it's needed and all of that?
Yeah, honestly, it's a breath of fresh air. And it's funny how Sarah and I came to be at SKC together. Actually, at the Forbes event last year, we had an interesting conversation, and I was kind of debating my career at that point, what I wanted out of my career. And I came on board with SKC a little over a year ago. And it has been everything Sarah has said and then some. It truly is. And I know it sounds cliche, but we really are a family. And everyone is involved at the decision-making level, because the tone at the top is integrated throughout all levels. And no one is necessarily above or below anyone else. We are all equals. We are all treated as equals, which again, it's a breath of fresh air. We can go on about this forever, I feel like. But no, Sarah and the partners do an amazing job of including everybody and listening to everybody, and everyone truly has a value at the firm. And I would like to believe that it's run very efficiently. I mean, it's funny, when I first came on, I was like, oh, wow, this makes sense. Like, this process, this procedure, it makes sense. We're not just doing something to do it. We're doing it because it also it makes sense. So it's nice. And I believe that we also have a really, really strong technology, between the tax software and, dare I say, QuickBooks. But all of our technology from soup to nuts it's top notch. And I'm very happy to be a part of the team here.
Okay, good. That's great. By the way, the Forbes event that she casually mentioned, was the recognition dinner that Ford held. That was last year. That was earlier this year. Was that this year? I can't even remember. I think it was
last summer.
It was
last summer.
The inaugural recognition of the top 200 CPAs in America. So good one. So I'll just piggyback off that, talking about that and the fact that you made a valuable connection during that event, and later you have this now relationship and professional relationship with Sarah and your firm. But Nicole, you've built a really strong personal brand along with your various leadership roles. So how does personal branding, how does that complement firm growth and the kind of trust that we need in today's accounting environment?
So to be completely honest, it happened by accident. But looking back on it, it was actually intentionally by accident, if that makes any sense. So I've been pretty involved in the NJCPA for quite some time. That's actually how I know Sarah, from way back when she was president, and we've always just both been involved and running in the same circles. But at the NJCPA, at the annual convention one year, I was like, can I teach Zumba? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so I taught Zumba one morning at 6 a.m. and then it kind of stuck. So this whole Zumba CPA thing was almost born because I just asked a question, whether it was going to be yes or no as the answer. I figured, hey, why not just shoot my shot? Like, what's the worst that could happen? So I started kind of almost developing a personal brand unintentionally. And then what was born out of that was me differentiating myself as the Zumba CPA person. And then it kind of grew because I was like, well, if this worked, well, then that might work. And I then asked the question at other accounting conferences. So it became less of a localized thing and more of a national thing. And then it was just kind of, I rode the wave, and I wasn't afraid to ask for permission because, again, what's the worst that can happen? So professionally, it's differentiated me in the sense that, my Zumba is my passion. It's my why. It's not my why, it's my and it just kind of, again, sets you apart. So it's a conversation starter for sure. It's an easy way to meet people and network because it's a like-minded group of people that kind of come together. So it's an easy, again, conversation starter and networking opportunity. And it just has kind of opened some more doors for me, which I enjoy doing. Like I love Zumba, I love fitness. So it's something that I thoroughly enjoy doing. And it's almost like it's part of work, but it's not really part of work. And I figured if there's a will, there's a way. And you can usually link your passion to your career and think outside the box. We do that regularly as CPAs all the time. So it almost kind of happened by accident. And now it's more just kind of taking those intentional steps to keep it going.
But it also gave you a platform, right? Like it elevated you at conferences, again, first locally and then nationally. And then everybody knew who you were and wanted to talk to you and recognized that you had a very outgoing, very positive personality. And I think that opened a lot of other doors for you.
Oh, for sure. I mean, people thought I was crazy for doing Zumba at 6 a.m. But there's also a lot of other equally crazy people in that room too. So
exactly. But the crazy thing is that even though we thought it was crazy, we still showed up, because I remember I was one of those crazy attendees who has attended one of your early morning sessions. But we show up because it's fun.
Exactly. I mean, and when I first, saw that, the fitness element, people were doing yoga and runs and fun walks at conferences. I was like, well, Zumba's kind of in the same realm. It's a little bit more outgoing and different, and but we can make it work. So we made it work.
Awesome. So folks, to the audience, to the attendees, I'm going to ask you guys a question. I want you to put your answers in the chat if you can. So I want to know from you, what do you think, in your opinion, is the biggest driver of growth in a CPA firm today? Is it technology? Is it talent development? Is it branding? Or is it client experience? What are your thoughts? Share your thoughts. I want to hear from you. So let's keep the conversation going. Sarah, Nicole, both of you. I know recently, and that was what actually prompted me to reach out to both of you to ask for us to have this LinkedIn Live session. You recently, SKC recently launched that the Empowering Women campaign. The campaign is about spotlighting stories of resilience and leadership. Could you share what inspired this initiative and, what sparked this idea?
So I would love to start, and then Nicole, you can fill in. This is just the beginning of what you may see on this topic from Nicole and I and from SKC, but it really started when I was earlier this year at a conference, an industry conference, that was very skewed to an attendance of mostly men. And it didn't really dawn on me until halfway through the first day, when I realized there was never a line in the ladies' room. And I was then in session and looked around the room and realized, well, I know why there was never a line at the ladies' room, because there's maybe 20% of the attendees are women, maybe. And so interestingly enough, I had come back to the office after that event, and Nicole had recently been at a different event. And I said to her, I have to tell you what happened to me at this event. So I shared that story with her. She had a very similar experience, but I won't take that from her. And so we just started talking and thinking about something's missing. It's not necessarily that, every keynote speaker needs to be female, but why are there not 50-50 in the audience, right? Because from a CPA standpoint, we know it's pretty much 50-50, if not more skewed women in the profession. So it was just something that was bothering us. And we just thought, we've got to do something that really makes women feel like they are included and bring them sort of out to these events and have meaningful sort of, social media mentoring, if you want to call it that, but that sounds terrible, but sort of this virtual mentoring that you can do, right? So it actually started with us saying, let's put together a presentation, let's put together a keynote or a breakout session that's all about being strong women, celebrating the strong women we know in industry and just in business and life in general. And we'll spotlight, many of the people that we know that fit that. And we're calling it Ask for Forgiveness, Not Permission. And we are debuting that keynote next year in the summer, in July, at a conference in Chicago. So we're very excited about that. But the social media campaign that you've been seeing is the beginning of us essentially doing the research and getting all of the key people together and feedback from them to include in our presentation in July.
Nice. I love that. Nicole, do you have something to add to that?
So my experience was I attended the Beta Alpha Psi annual meeting in San Antonio, Texas earlier this year. And if you're not familiar with Beta Alpha Psi, is all college students, National Honor Society for mostly accounting and business students. And there were about 900 students in attendance and 100 faculty. So almost 1,000 people. Actually, it was over 1,000 people. And so I was I was one of the 3 keynotes throughout that meeting. And we had done dinner with a couple of different universities, and some of the students were in attendance as well at the dinners. And the constant question that I received was from female college students asking me what it's like to be a woman in the profession, because it's, from their perspective, what they've seen, what they've heard, the stereotype is that it's really a male dominated profession, which we all know is not to be true. But, and again, the attendance was it was actually very 50-50, but this was a common question that I received by multiple female students. And I just thought it was really interesting, because if that's what they're thinking at the college level, like what are they seeing? What are they hearing in order to have that kind of thought in their head? And me, obviously being in the profession and living it, I was like, no, there's tons of opportunities for females, and for, it's not just like a male dominated profession. And even when you look at business in general, it's still the same type of stereotype, it seems like, at the college level. And that's our pipeline, for any business at this point in the business world, whether it's accounting, finance, whatever, college students, that's the pipeline. So I obviously felt very passionately about this topic. And when Sarah told me about the line in the bathroom, I was kind of like, wait a minute, like same thing. And we were like, let's do this. So wrote an article on it. We're speaking on it next year. I mean, this is only the beginning for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I always, I don't know that conference that you went to where you had a 50-50 attendance, but a lot of conferences definitely, or even just regular events or industry events, I see that the population seems to be skewed towards the male side and then the female side. So
yeah, this is college though, so that's why it was 50-50, but I agree with you. And whenever I've attended a lot of conferences, it definitely was more male dominated than female.
Yeah, so definitely want to get those women out there. And I'm all into empowering women. I try and do something and promote women during Women's History Month and a bunch of different things that I do to support women as well. So those are great initiatives. So can you tell me, has this campaign influenced SKC's internal culture or your policies, or is it the other way around? Because I know you're all female partners, and right, so has there been a cross?
It's interesting because we are 100% female owned, and we tend to also have a very significant female population on the team. It's not intentional, it just kind of happens. So it's certainly not a brand that or a component of our brand that we market or publicize. It just happens to be who we are right now, and that, those are our demographics. But I think the thing that we heard the most feedback from during this campaign was really from our colleagues outside of SKC, and how amazing they thought it was that we were doing it, and that we were, highlighting other women in other CPA firms that we're friends with, and highlighting women in other businesses that, aren't in the accounting industry. And we've got nothing but great feedback about how inspiring it is and how nice it is for people to feel called out and recognized, and more importantly, celebrated, right? Because the more that you see people being, raised up and being celebrated for positive things, the more you'll realize that you too can do that, and you too can, have that journey and be successful and be supported. And that's ultimately what I think we were trying to do with the campaign, was just make sure that we elevated women so that they felt great about themselves and were, put in the spotlight so that other women can see them and recognize that they too can ascend to that.
Awesome. I love that. So I'm going to ask the audience another question. I want to hear from you guys. So what do you think? What would you like to see more programs, more campaigns similar to this Empower Women's campaign by SKC? Would you like to see more campaigns, similar campaigns? Yes, maybe. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe no. Maybe enough about campaigns. I don't want to have any more. But let me know if this is something that you're going to push for. Maybe your firm should adopt if they don't have something right now. And so do you see, I think you spoke to this earlier on, Sarah, you mentioned mentorship, or maybe do you think that this could lead to other things, a spin-off to maybe mentorship, advocacy, sponsorship, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as I've said, I think this is only scratching the surface of what we can do and where this can go. And, Nicole's passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. Our whole team is passionate about it. And, I think it's important, Arume, to kind of clarify that just because we are celebrating and elevating women does not make it an adversarial us versus them situation. I want to very clearly articulate that to you and to the audience, because we have an amazing profession. We have amazing colleagues that are not females, and I'm not trying to take away from that. But, we've just, in my day-to-day, we've seen that there's, whether it's a confidence issue or, whatever the underlying reasoning is, there just seems to be a delay or a lack of women rising up into the spotlight when we know that they can and then they should. And we just wanted to help elevate them for that.
Thanks for saying that, and thanks for giving the men a shout out, because yes, we couldn't do this alone.
That's something to mention too. I'm going to piggyback on you, Sarah.
Yes.
I attended a women's networking event at a national accounting conference, and there were a couple hundred women in the room, and there was one man in the room. And it was very interesting. I was like, this guy is like, we were all kudos to him. And he of course got shouted out, because it was like, well, why are you here? And he very proudly and publicly was like, I'm here to learn how I can help, and how I can help enable, and also how I can kind of better understand. And everybody in the room stood up and gave this guy a round of applause, standing ovation, because we're like, yes, we need more of that. We just, and it does also go both ways, but in the same breath, it was nice to see somebody. I mean, he was in a room full of 200 plus women like that. That was pretty, kudos to him. But it was nice to see, it was nice to hear that there are people that want to help, because they recognize that there is maybe a little bit of a disconnect, and that, any support is great support.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, I see a lot of yeses to my earlier question of the audience as to if they would like to see more similar campaigns. So to that, I'll ask both of you, either one of you, what practical steps can a firm take if they want to, launch an empowering women campaign, or empowering, junior staff, or whatever, if they want to launch a campaign? Are there any practical steps that you think, where can they start? Like, what, do some research, or what? Like, how do they get started?
I mean, I'm a big fan of not just keeping things internal to your firm. So if you want to have a women's support group, or a networking group, or a mentorship program within your organization for women, that's great. My philosophy is we have a world of amazing colleagues out there, as I've said before, in other CPA firms, in other accounting roles, in private, in government. We've got amazing colleagues in law firms, in education, in many different companies. And oftentimes our clients can serve as our mentors and our support system. And so I'm a huge fan of looking outside of your organization and trying to get outside perspective, whether it's a mastermind group or, just your personal board of directors where you build people in your network that aren't just in your firm. I tend to think a little bit bigger. So I love bringing everybody together in sort of that net weaving aspect of being able to support each other across professions, across firms, across, honestly, generations too, I think is really invaluable. So, I have to just say, if you want to start something like that in your organization, go back to one of the opening questions you asked me. Get a team together, get a committee together, get a task force together of people that are like-minded and passionate about it. And you will create something that is amazing and that you didn't even know was possible by bringing that group together.
I love that, and that is a good way to start. And you never, the best ideas and the best programs, I find, are always when it's that collaborative and when you have a lot of folks that buy into the program, into the initiative. If it's just one person pushing something down the pike, you have a lot of obstacles to deal with. So I found that
If you build it, they will come.
yes, right, exactly. So talking about building it, and so if you could, and I'm going to ask this of you guys, of both of you, and of the audience as well. So guys who are listening in and watching this, I want you guys to type your response in the chat. So if you could have one word, what one word would you say that describes what empowerment means to you?
One word, Arume. One word.
Okay. All right. So you guys in the chat can do one word. Both of you can do a sentence if you have to.
No, I want to play by the rules. I can do one word.
One word. Sorry, you first.
My one word would be strength.
Strength. Good one. That's good.
I would say resilience.
Well, that was resilience. I love it because that was my word. So I don't have a word any longer. But I love both strength, resilience.
Grit is another good one.
Yes. Perseverance. Yes.
Yeah. I can do any better. So I'm just gonna move on.
Honestly, support. A cheerleader is, having somebody in your corner like that helps so much.
I love that. Support is good as well. I love support. So let's shift to and talk about firm culture, and then influences about policy. How if you have individual professionals, how can you're an individual professional and you're doing your thing, you're an employee. I'm just speaking generally now. I'm an employee, let's say I'm an employee in my thing, doing my thing, but how can individual professionals influence firm policy to create a more inclusive and progressive culture? Because sometimes, I know some firms want to get buy-in from their staff, from their team members, others don't. But if you feel like, hey, you really, maybe my firm's going they might not be going in the wrong direction, but I feel as if they need to give a little bit more voice to women. What's your suggestion as to what individuals can do?
Can I go first in this one?
Yes.
So I've come from, like I said, last year, I was kind of reevaluating my career. And I thought about getting out of the accounting profession, like just completely revamping everything and getting out of the accounting profession because of certain events that had happened in my life. And, I would say 100%, if you are part of a firm culture or just a culture in general where you feel like you are valued as an individual and respected as a person, that goes such a long way. And not only to speak up and speak out, but to actually feel like you're being truly listened to and that what you have to say means something and matters. That is, and it's a very basic concept, but so many businesses fail at it. And they can window dress and make it look pretty on the outside as much as they want, but it's really at the core, that basic feeling of, respect, feeling like you can speak up and you're going to be listened to and it's valued. That to me is what culture really means and stands for. And it's just a very basic concept.
I think to jump in on that, you have to take inventory as a team member in an organization and really assess if you are going to be listened to and appreciated and heard. Because if you're with an organization whose values don't align with yours, you're probably not going to be able to single-handedly change that culture that are built on those values. So the important thing to, people have said that the grass is always greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you water it. So if you find yourself somewhere that resonates with your values and that is in alignment with the direction that you want to go in your career, and you want to be treated the way that you see them treat other people, that's where you stay and you flourish and you speak up and you continue to influence in a positive way the direction of that organization. But if you're somewhere where, as a smart team member, you're looking around and you're seeing people getting let go that are of the same mindset and same philosophies that you are, or you're seeing, those thoughts and ideas that you share brought up by other people and shot down, you're probably not in the right organization for you. And if you really want to have true joy and engagement in your professional life, it's time to make that tough decision to maybe switch organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear you. I 100%. I think that's great, because I see a lot of young professionals struggling with it. Not even all young professionals, from seniors, or just regular professionals that have challenges, because with the different employers, because there are different mindsets in different places. But let me switch gears and talk about advocacy, and I'm talking about influencing policy now. I know you are both great supporters of the profession and advocacy. Can you talk about how did you first get into advocacy, and what are some of the things that you advocate on for the profession, whether it's through NJCPA or AICPA, and why is that important for us within the profession to be advocating for policies that affect our industry?
Yeah, I mean, I love our profession. I very early on in my college career knew that this was the trajectory I wanted to be on. I wanted to go for my accounting degree, get my CPA, become a partner in a firm, and I want to be able to give back to the profession that has been so great for me for over 20 years at this point. And, I first got involved with our state society here in New Jersey because I won a scholarship when I was in college. And that kind of sucked me in a good way into the organization so that I could meet like-minded colleagues. And as Nicole mentioned earlier, I then, in 2018, 2019 became the president of the NJCPA. And that was a whole different perspective for me, because I got to travel the state and I got to talk to other professionals and other managing partners in firms of all different sizes, a lot of sole practitioners in New Jersey, larger firms, and everybody had different sets of issues, but everybody had similarities to their issues. And so, when you've got your nose to the grindstone, especially if you're a small firm or even a sole proprietor, and there's really nobody else day to day that you can lean on, you need to have advocates out there for you. The AICPA is a great one. Obviously, our state society is fantastic. I was able to serve on AICPA council because of my role at the state society, and that brought my awareness to advocacy at the national level. I mean, there's things that happen behind the scenes, whether it has to do with, sales tax on professional services in your local state, or if it has to do with whether or not we're going to be required to take continuing education courses anymore as licensed professionals, although I'm sure we're not often referred to as professionals going forward. But, there's a lot of things happening out there. We just had this huge campaign that's still ongoing about changing the pathway to licensure at a national level. That's hugely important for pipeline issues and for bringing in, really talented quality students into the profession, and lowering the barriers of entry. So to me, again, the profession that I love so much has been so great to me over the years. I want to be able to support other practitioners and to give back and fight for, what is fair and what is right for the public, looking at us as CPAs and for CPAs as business owners and professionals themselves.
Very true. And we both served on I was on AICPA Council with you when you were on council, and then we both served on the AICPA PCPS EC executive committee. In fact, I remember, and you built connections. There's a picture. I think there's a picture of you and who was it from the EC? Where's that picture, Ellen? I think we had.
Oh, that's the first.
Go ahead. Well, anyway, that's one of your pictures. But that was a picture with Eleanor with you and I and Eleanor at one of the events. I think it was the AICPA PCPS EC meeting.
That's Forbes.
That's one of Nicole as well. So, but what I was getting to is that New York right now, like you were talking about the advocacy, New York has passed the alternate pathway for CPAs. So we're very happy with that. They can do the 120. Oh, that's a picture with Nicole and I talking about networking. So that was doing, you got an award and I got an award for.
You were top 25 women in accounting, and I was the was Outstanding Young Professional Award.
Outstanding Young Professional Award. That is correct. Yeah, thank you for that. But what I was getting to was the fact that policies do make a difference. Advocacy makes a difference. So does volunteering. So these are places where we've met. We've been able to connect because of our volunteer efforts on the state level as well as on the AICPA national level. Right. So Nicole, let's talk about how you juggle your I think some folks say they don't want to use this word any longer, work-life balance, but it's still being used. So work-life balance and wellness, right? So how you juggle your tax, what you do with tax, being a tax director, your speaking engagements, your community service. So what's your secret? How do you avoid burnout and you're able to maintain balance?
Trial and error. No, I this is one of, I feel like, the hardest things to figure out. And I'm not perfect by any means, and I still don't have it figured out perfectly by any means. There's always work to be done when it comes to work-life balance. And I constantly say, if it's important to you, then it's important, period, end of story. So you make time for what's important to you. Now, I'm not a morning person. I know, Sarah, you are. You get up in the morning and you run. I love my sleep, so I'm definitely not hitting the gym in the morning, but I will hit the gym at night. I will teach Zumba once a week on the weekend, but I will make time for what's important to me. And, I'm very grateful to be at a firm that also cares what's important to me. And, with the speaking engagements, that again kind of just evolved over time. I was always deathly afraid of public speaking, believe it or not. So I forced myself into uncomfortable positions to get out of the comfort zone and grow in that. So it started off kind of small and it's gotten a little bit bigger over the years. And, like I said, luckily I'm at a firm that, they allow me and they enable me to do what I love and love what I do on a daily basis. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. I'm learning, I've learned to say, I'm not going to say no, but I've learned to say, well, maybe can we try it this way instead so it can fit and work into, schedules, and kind of, like I said, again, trial and error over the years, because when I was a staff or very early on in my career, I just work, because that's what you do as a staff. You don't necessarily have the confidence to ask those questions. Oh, can I do this? Or, oh, can I do that? But I feel like you also learn where it's okay to kind of ask for things that you want. But in the same breath, you also got to make the time for those things that you want. And if it's allowing yourself to go out with friends to dinner once a week, you make time for that. Even if you might work a little bit later that night because of it, you still need to do what's important to you, because that also keeps you grounded during the higher stress times. So like I said, there's no one size fits all approach. It's a work in progress. I feel like this is a constantly evolving thing, but we figure out kind of what works, what doesn't work, and we kind of just roll with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'll ask you to piggyback off that because Nicole was saying, it's she's able to do some of this stuff because of the flexibility that the firm gives up. So from the firm perspective, like how do you? Because I know this is something that a lot of employees, team members, staff are always, going on about avoiding burnout, whether it's doing whether you call it busy season or tax season or whatever season, but getting stressed and just that burnout. So how do you what do you do at your firm to keep that at the minimum, that burnout at the minimum?
So our philosophy is people first, and that people starts with our team. So from my perspective as managing partner, where the buck stops with me, and ultimately I'm responsible for everybody else in the boat with me. If I'm burnt out and not at my best, I'm no good to help anybody else, and that's my job. So boundaries are wildly important, and recognizing that if you're not taken care of as a team member, the person that you are, you're not going to show up great for work. You're not going to show up great for family. You're not going to show up great for your clients. And then everything starts to crumble, right? So if we recognize that if our cups aren't full as humans, we can't then give in a way that we want to, need to, or our clients expect of us. So it's very important to have that philosophy in your organization if you want people to be able to have some sort of normal life even during busy season. It was so interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day whose child went to join another firm. And when they signed their offer letter, they had to guarantee by signing that they were going to work at least 70 hours a week.
Oh my God, are you serious? This was
This
recently? Was
was
that
this
recently?
week I had this conversation, and I could
Oh
not
my gosh.
believe it because I was really under the assumption that firms were not going in that direction anymore and making changes. So I recognize now that that is necessarily not the case in all firms, and that there's still that high expectation of the hours, the hours, the hours. But statistics and studies have shown that once you cross over that 55-hour mark, the quality of work declines greatly. So
Yeah.
not only when you push people to that level are they burnt out and unhappy, but what they're giving you or your clients is less quality than you would normally have as the standard. So there's nothing beneficial about pushing everybody over the edge and just making billable hours the focus of everything. And our team recognizes that, and we very often try to repeat the mantra of, work smarter, not harder, whether that means automating things, whether that means pushing things down to the right level of team member to do it so that it's not on you, but it still gets done in an efficient way. And that's really just the tone from the top and the culture. Now, do we have to sometimes band together because we have to get something done? Of course, that's going to happen. But if the majority of the time you're treating your team like the humans that they are, they will be willing to pitch in when it's absolutely necessary because they know it's not something that you call in all the time.
That's great. I love it. People first, because it's like you say, without the people, without your people, you can't get much done. So it's like, yeah, everyone's gotta be
That's
keeping
crazy
them.
though, Sarah. I mean, if you
Yeah,
think about it, I mean, 70 hours to me, that's like, well, the company clearly just doesn't want to hire another body to cut down on, and what would hiring another body do? That would cost them more money. So again, they're kind of a little bit greedy, and they would rather. Again, it goes to me, that goes back to culture and what do you value at the very basic human level. But yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there.
exactly. And that's why we don't need any more of that type of those type of hours in our profession. That's why folks are being reluctant to go into the profession when they hear of someone, going into work, an employer demanding 7 8 hours of work a week. That's
Yeah, the
not
pipeline's
what
going to
folks want
disappear
to
if they hear that. I'll tell
Well,
you.
and
Yeah,
the
exactly.
craziest thing, not that this makes up for it, but of course, my initial reaction was, I hope the starting salary was six figures.
Right.
And it
Yes,
wasn't,
exactly.
and it
Right.
wasn't. So I'm thinking, I
Oh,
mean, I know what
that's
our starting salary is. So I know
right.
what our expected hours are.
Right.
And, it wasn't, the
Right.
math wasn't mathing for me in that
Yeah,
scenario.
the math wasn't mathing. So let me ask you, audience folks, what do you think is the biggest challenge for CPAs and accountants today? Is it work-life balance? Is it keeping up with technology? Is it building a personal brand? Or is it advocacy and leadership? Share your thoughts. Let me know. Work-life balance, keeping up with tech, building a personal brand, or advocacy and leadership. Sarah, I know you spoke, and oh my goodness, time is going so fast.
It flies
I'm
by
like,
when you
wow,
have fun.
are you serious? Is that really what the time is? We got 10 minutes left. All right. So let me wrap up with the last question. And then I have a few round robin questions that I like to ask at the end. But if you were to think about the future of our profession, and as you look at as you think about where we are today and where we're going in the future, what would you say? What are the skills or the mindsets that are critical for CPS, that for students entering into the profession and for folks who are already in the profession to continue to climb that corporate ladder or whatever to get to that leadership role? What skills or mindsets should they have right now as they move forward?
So for me, it's two things and they're related. It's the ability to establish and maintain successful relationships, because that's crucial when you talk about dealing with anybody who's on your team in your organization. And it's critical in dealing with your clients and your colleagues and serving them in a way that a lot of the calculations that we do or the tax returns that we prepare can be automated and can be done and will continue to be done in more efficient ways. But we can't get Chat GPT to successfully have a good, solid, trusting relationship where our client is going to call us back and say, listen, my son just got his license and our car insurance is going to quadruple. And what do we do? And help us budget to make this better. There's an emotional component to what we do when we talk about people's money and people's finances and people's long-term success in their business and what that will mean for them and their lifestyle. And we as the CPAs are the people that can build that relationship and build that trust that's going to make them want to keep coming back to us. And the side component to the relationship piece is the emotional intelligence piece. And so what does it look like to be able to relate to colleagues and to relate to clients as they show up and with their desired communication style and understanding who they are as people and making the connections that way at their level.
That's great. So I'll just ask you a similar question, Nicole. Like, what would you say? If you could advise any professional right now in our field, how they can stay ready, relevant, and confident, and play a role in shaping the future.
So, I mean, like I said, I love to speak to college students, and a lot of times they ask, what qualities, what characteristics are important for anybody in the accounting profession. And I always say critical thinking is so important. Obviously, yes, we have AI and that's used as a supplement. It's not going to replace our jobs, but you as an individual need to be a critical thinker because you need to be able to connect those dots. And then, as Sarah mentioned, also communicate to the clients. So critical thinking, communication kind of go hand in hand. And I would also like to say kind of that lifelong learning mindset, because once you graduate from college, once you enter the profession, wherever you are in your career, there is always going to be something that you will need to learn. I mean, as a tax professional, the tax law is always changing. We saw that this past year with one big, beautiful bill. And we all had to learn a whole bunch of stuff to advise our clients. And we have to keep that open mind of having that lifelong learner mindset, because we know the tax law is going to change again. I mean, that's one thing that's certain in this life, besides death and taxes, that the tax law is going to change. So keeping that mindset of continuing to learn basically forever, and also having being able to critically think and then communicate, I think are two really good, or three technically really good characteristics.
I think those are great skills to have. And like you said, anyone in our industry, we have to be lifelong learners because things continue to change. Regulation, tax law, everything continues to change.
It keeps it interesting too,
Say that again?
It keeps it interesting, keeps us on our toes.
Exactly. It keeps the mind and the brain sharp as well. So I always like to wrap up with a quick round robin. So this is a fun spin on it's a classic set of questions that used to be that was actually inspired by this late interviewer, one of my favorite interviewers, James Limpton. He used to interview a lot of actors, and that used to be my my field. So just say the first thing that comes to mind. Okay. So what's your favorite word, Sarah?
My favorite word?
Yeah.
Geez, is it bad if I pick empowerment?
That's good. That works. Yep. Nicole.
Fun.
Fun. I love that. Mine is yes. Boring. I know
Short
it's
and
boring.
sweet.
Yeah. All right. The opposite of that. What's your least favorite word, Nicole?
She's starting to do.
Sad. No. Stress.
Stress. Wow. Okay. Sarah?
This is terrible. My least favorite word is moist.
Moist.
That's
Where
a
did that
good
come
one.
from?
That's a good one.
Mine is no. I hate saying no. I'm like, that's why yes is my favorite. I'm like, say yes and figure it out as long as you can figure it out. All right. What was the last movie that you saw, Nicole? Either on the big screen or on a small screen. The last movie you saw.
Oh, what did I watch on the airplane? Oh gosh, it was not memorable. It was some like Hallmark movie. I don't know the name of it, but it was a Hallmark movie. And then I fell asleep right after. So I don't know, but it was a Hallmark movie.
All right. What about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's December, so I just finished watching It's a Wonderful Life.
Ah, nice one. That's good. That's always a good classic. So the last movie I saw, it was on a plane. It was it was actually a documentary by what's her name? Mariska.
Gay.
Yes, my mother Jane. My mother
Yeah,
Jane.
that was great.
The plane too.
I watched that. That was great.
You've seen it? That's good. I had to cry a couple times. It brought a couple of tears to my eyes, but it was a
I
good one.
love her, so I'm definitely watching that one.
All right. What about the last book? The last book you read? Who wants to go first?
I mean, I'm currently reading 2 books right now. Does that count?
Yes,
I am reading the autobiography of Margaret Thatcher because I love autobiographies of strong leaders. I read all of the autobiographies of the presidents from when I was born to current. So clearly I've gone through those. Now I'm on to leaders of other countries. And then I'm also reading a book called The Gift of Fear.
Wow. Nice one. The Gift of Fear. Okay. That's a good one. Anything on your radar, Nicole?
I'm reading The Activator Advantage as every day I go into the sauna, I read a couple of pages. So that's we're actually reading it at SKC. So it's part of our development kind of it's an interesting book, and it's actually geared more towards like accountants, attorneys, business like profession people. And a lot of the content actually it resonates, kind of scary resonates. But yeah, so currently reading that one in the sauna on a daily basis.
That's our business development book club book.
Oh, awesome. That's a good one. I used to belong to a book club, and I haven't been in a meeting in a while, and I haven't read a book in a while, but because I've had so much to do and try. But I am reading the CPA journal, so I'll just plug that.
It counts.
I know the articles in it. So, last question: If what profession other than accounting, your current profession, would you have liked to have if you had a choice, if you had a second life, what profession would you like to be in?
I used to, so when I was in high school, that's when I decided I wanted to become an accountant. I took an accounting class my junior year and was like, ooh, T accounts, they made sense. And I was like, accounting, I'm declaring accounting going into my, college journey, we'll call it. But I always thought I would be a math teacher.
Oh, interesting.
But now I can't add or subtract unless I have an adding machine, and I can't even subtract. I have to add negatives. So that probably didn't aged well. So.
Interesting. I know, right? Calculators, technology, that's what it does to our brains. Sarah.
When I was in, grammar school, I wanted to be an attorney, and I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I wanted to be a pediatrician. Reflectively now answering that question, I don't think be good in any of those areas. If I had to start over again, I would probably go into investment banking.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Oh my goodness, this has been great. So I want to ask you guys, any final thoughts, piece of advice, or just thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience today, Sarah?
I mean, this may be a little overshared and a little cliche, but I say this all the time inside the firm. And I think it's really important for people to remember, especially as we get into goal setting for 2026. Just remember that all of the growth comes at the edge of your comfort zone. So the best thing that you can do for yourself is get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, Nicole.
I'm a quote person, so I'm going to take it back to my high school yearbook quote because I still end a lot of my presentations with this, especially when it comes to personal branding. Ralph Waldo Emerson, do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and blaze your trail. I tweak it a little bit because I like to say blaze your trail because, I mean, you got to do what you love and love what you do. And
Right.
passion can really take you far.
Why not? I love it. I love it. Thank you both. That brings us to the end of today's fireside chat. Thank you, Sarah and Nicole, for
Thank you.
sharing your insights and your experience. To
Thank
our
you.
audience, remember you can make a profound difference in accounting, in the accounting profession, by embracing leadership, advocacy, innovation, and technology. So if you enjoyed today's conversation, please follow SKS Empowering Women series and connect with Sarah and Nicole on LinkedIn. And if there's a leader that you'd like to hear from next on our next LinkedIn Live event, drop their name in the comments or send me a message directly. I'll do what I can